So what happened in Supreme Court today? Justices Surya Kant and Kitoswar Singh were hearing a writ petition filed by Ranveer Allahbadia against the multiple FIRs that are against him from across the country. Union of India, State of Maharashtra, State of Assam were respondents in this case. This writ petition was filed on Friday. The case was heard today on Tuesday. Just a quick extra note. Ranveer Allahbadia had hired as his lawyer Advocate Abhinav Chandrachud, who is the son of recently retired former Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. Okay, back to the main story. Now, the hearing began and the court came down really heavily on Allahbadia on the comments that he had made. Now, you know those comments. I'm not going to repeat them. Look them up if you can't remember. Now, on Monday, I just want to give you a recap of the cases that we're talking about. On Monday, a case was registered in Guwahati in Assam by a resident who said there was a promotion of obscenity in that show. Besides Allahabadia, Samay Raina, Ashish Chanchalani, Jasprit Singh and Apurva Makija were named in that case. Allahabadia was also summoned by Mumbai's Khar police station and was on three different occasions. He's also facing a police complaint in Indore in Madhya Pradesh. Now, all of this have been clubbed together, or he's come to the Supreme Court asking for these FIRs against him to be squashed. This is actually, as a quick note, a legal tactic that tends to get used a lot when there are a lot of multiple cases across the country against the same person. They approach the Supreme Court asking the Supreme Court to crush all of the FIRs. What happens instead is the Supreme Court tends to club all of these cases into itself and take the cases away from the smaller courts. What it does for the petitioner is that it avoids having to have small cases in different parts of the country. So you're shuttling from courtroom to courtroom, and it saves that pain at least. And it also, if you get protection from arrest, it saves you the harassment from more local police stations, because as the rules stand in India, if you're offended in any part of the country, you can go to a police station and file an FIR. So let's come back to the court today and I'll tell you what happened in court. Now, the Supreme Court had some scathing oral remarks. Now, these are called oral observations, basically. So it's, before the final judgment, while the case is being argued, the judges tend to respond to the arguments that are placed before them. This is not their final decision. These are just oral observations of the court. And they were scathing in what they said. The court actually berated Allahabadia for his, and I'm quoting, unacceptable comments, and said, and I'm quoting here, there is something dirty in his mind which has been vomited on the YouTube show. The court also granted him interim relief from arrest and prevented any further FIRs against him. So he's not going to be arrested, and that's a massive relief for him. And there can't be any other FIRs that are filed against him either. But a lot of stuff was said in the meantime. It said he's insulting parents. Why should the courts favor him? When his lawyer, Chandrachud, actually asserted that his client has been receiving death threats, Justice Kant said, and I'm quoting here, if you can try to attain cheap publicity by saying these kinds of things, there might be others who might want to get cheap publicity by making threats. Justice Kant went on to say, the words that you have used, parents will feel ashamed, sisters and daughters will feel ashamed, the entire society will feel ashamed. This shows a perverted mind, end quote. Now, apart from granting him protection from arrest, which is called coercive action, in legal terms, or from the FIRs that have been filed in Mumbai and Guwahati, the bench has also asked for responses from the government of India, from the government of Maharashtra and from Assam on clubbing all of those FIRs, and also has prevented any further FIRs from being registered against him. But this interim protection comes at a cost, and these are the conditions for Allahabadia. 1, he should join the investigation as and when summoned by investigating officers. Okay. He should fully cooperate with ongoing investigation and not be accompanied by any counsel inside the police station during the investigation. Okay. He should deposit his passport with the investigating officer at Thane police station. He should not leave the country without permission of the Supreme Court. And number 5 is that he and his associates shall not air or publish, as the case may be, any other show until further orders. The bench has also given Allahbadia liberty to approach the Maharashtra and Assam polices for protection for his life so that he is able to join the investigation in spite of receiving threats. Now that we've seen what's unfolded in the Supreme Court, I just want to place one more sort of unrelated fact before you. Like I said, the writ petition was filed before the Supreme Court by Allahbadia's lawyers on Friday. And so Friday, Saturday, Sunday are court holidays. Monday, today is Tuesday. The hearing happened on Tuesday. The Supreme Court currently has 80,000 pending cases before it, as per the National Judicial Data Grid. So the roster moved fairly quickly to list this case. Interesting. Is it because of public interest, because it's going viral on social media, or is there another reason why the court felt that this was a really important matter that needed to be addressed immediately? And that's not all. There was another big thing that happened, and this is what happened. The court actually called for assistance of the Attorney General of India, R. Venkatramani, and the Solicitor General, Tushar Mehta, and these are the top, most senior-most lawyers who represent the government of India. The court has called on both of them to tackle a vacuum that currently exists in the regulation of online content, saying that the government is not regulating online content, and that needs to be solved, and there's a vacuum there because there's a lack of regulation. Now, ASG Aishwarya Bhati, who was arguing for the government, was asked to convey this message to her seniors, and Justice Khan told her that the Allahbadia case has raised concerns about the lack of regulation of online content. And I'm going to quote what was said here. This is the quote. "There is a case of YouTubers, and Union of India is a party. We would like to do something. If the government of India will willingly do it, we will be happy. Otherwise, we are not going to leave this vacuum in this area. The way it is being used by so-called YouTube channels, all these things are going on. We have issued notice. Please request the Attorney General and the Solicitor General to be here on the next date of hearing. We would like to do something. We may not overlook the importance and the sensitivity of this issue." This is not a hint. This is a gavel coming down really hard, saying you have to bring in government regulation on digital content, on YouTube, on OTT platforms. That's the big one. And I'll take a second to tell you why that's a big one, because on television and on other forms of media, so for film, it's self-regulated. So you basically you have associations of editors who, and on print media, on print newspapers as well, associations of editors who regulate themselves. And the association sends a newspaper a notice saying, you got this wrong, you need to correct it. But government regulation normally leads to censorship and a crushing of freedom of speech. That's the understanding in a democracy. But here we see there has been a call to plug the gap. Now, this is not the first time this has come up. There was a parliamentary panel led by BJP MP Nishikant Dubey, who has urged the INB ministry to propose media laws by the 17th of February based on the outrage on this one comment. We also know it's not just the BJP, Shiv Sena, Uddhav Thackeray Shiv Sena, Priyanka Chaturvedi had also raised the issue and asked for a robust legal framework to regulate content. Last year, the Union Minister for Information and Broadcast, Ashwini Vaishnaw, told Parliament that the government's effort to combat vulgar content on social media should involve strengthening of existing laws. Now, I want to just bring our attention back to Ranveer Allahbadia for a second. There's an article in the Live Mint that says that he has lost 2 million subscribers since this whole thing happened. He's faced a lot of backlash. His earnings, which tends to be, according to this article, about 8 to 10 lakh rupees per month from ads. Remember, he has perhaps a team that needs to be paid salaries and needs to be supported. Now, effectively, what this does is prevents him from doing his job. if he doesn't upload any content, he will not make any revenue, he will not be able to earn any money, and he will not be able to pay his team. In the meantime, YouTube has removed that particular controversial episode of India's Got Lated. Samay Raina has said that he's removed all the episodes of India's Got Lated from his YouTube channel. This is what has happened so far, and I've told you everything that's happened with context. I have a couple of questions to ask you. As citizens of the country, you can leave your comments in the comment section. These are just my questions before the citizens of the country. When we ask an Allahbadia, or when the court asks an Allahbadia to submit his passport to the police station and not travel without permission, is he now a criminal that has to be treated in this manner? Do you believe that, yes or no? 2, banning him from uploading content means that he cannot work. This is his job. He cannot earn, he cannot pay his team. Does this impede his fundamental right of livelihood, which we have in our constitution, and his fundamental right of speech and expression? That's a question for you to answer. The courts have always meant to be guardians of our fundamental rights. Remember, our fundamental rights should not be taken away from us under any cost, unless they fall into the exceptions that are written in our constitution. And I must say the exception does list out, morality as one of those clauses. Does this fall into that exception, in your opinion? So have the courts now become the moral police? And remember, morality is subjective from one person to another person, or the courts guardians of our fundamental rights. And fundamentally, speaking as mothers, sisters, daughters of this country, like the Supreme Court justices, like the lordships have pointed out, are we ashamed and insulted by this joke? Are we ashamed and insulted when a man in this country can rape his wife to death and she dies and he walks away scot-free because there is no law against it? It is not illegal to rape your wife to death in this country. Does that cause us to be ashamed? Is there a regulatory vacuum that maybe the courts can step in and, sort of insist that it be regulated? A law that prevents us from being raped to death. Does that cause us shame? Does polluted air and water contaminated with feces cause us shame? Lack of safety for women and small children who regularly get raped, does that cause us shame? Lack of accountability for corruption in our cities, the reduced quality of life in our cities, does that cause us shame? Stampedes at train stations where people die, does that cause us shame? Is this joke the top priority that needs to be looked at by the highest court of the land at the utmost urgency to fill the vacuum of regulation of YouTube content? Is that on the same level as everything else that our country is facing right now? These are questions I place before you as the audience. The comment section is open. Let me know what you think.